everybody. This is another episode of Max One-on-One and also for the Midnight Madness radio show. Today I have a privilege. Today, it's amazing that, I'm talking to this guy, a legend, an icon from, the punk rock in Canada and all over the world, because he also lives, in a couple of countries. Ted Axe, how you doing, brother?
How are you doing, Max? Good to talk to you tonight.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time, and the opportunity of interviewing you. So tell me what's going on with you. What are you up to these days?
Well, I started a new band about a year ago, and we kind of started in a huge place, a big venue, and just been trying to keep up that level of performance. Okay. We've had a great feedback from the band, from the audience. And just got a couple of new members in it, so we're practicing up for summer shows.
Very cool, very cool. You have a new record, right? That's Sex, Horror, and Violence.
Yeah, Sex, Horror, and Violence, released independently last year, and just been doing songs from that album.
Oh,
it's
nice.
It's an album that's got something for everyone. It's kind of dark rock and hard rock, I would say. Mm-hmm. And, I'm influenced by a lot of the guys from the 70s, actually, like David Bowie and T-Rex, New York Dolls, and all the greats.
In the 70s, how was to, live that generation, right? So tell me a little bit about that feeling of the 70s.
Well, the 70s was great because, as a kid, you could go into a record store and leaf through the records, and there was so much more to see. The albums were big, and the images were prolific, and I think that was some of the things that kids miss today is going into a record store and going through all the albums. And I would go through the records and see which guys look cool, and be very interested in that, their hairstyles, their clothes. Yeah, I remember going to a record store and they were playing this music I'd never heard before. I was just transfixed. I said, "Who is this?" So I went and asked the proprietor, and he said, "It's the new Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, wow." And, so that image of this cat with red hair and looking very futuristic in a milieu of where everybody else looked like a hippie was fascinating. And so that was kind of a new feeling for me, discovering new artists. I was interested in artists that were androgynous looking, and wore a lot of clothes, stylistically, that were different from hippies.
Gotcha.
I was kind of into the glam of it all back then, even. Yeah, and then I got in a band called The Action, which were now are kind of considered Canada's first punk band. Yeah. Not much of a digital footprint, I'm afraid, because it was quite long ago. But we ended up touring with the Ramones and the Stranglers, and things happened very fast, and they fell apart very fast, as was the way back then, kind of thing.
How was, a conversation with the Ramones, or how are those kids? That they were like freaks, or there were people that you could talk to,
Yeah, the Ramones were kind of like a family. Everyone thought they were brothers, really, because they the same, but they were very professional. Not like they're portrayed at all, because they had a real performance ethic, and Johnny Ramone, the guitarist, would say, the way to perform is to focus on the back of the room.
Yes.
And just keep your eyes on the back of the room, and it looks like you're looking at everyone else. So I learned a lot from them.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. That was awesome. That was a great experience too.
You know, it's sad because they really wanted to be accepted mainstream.
Yes.
And they tried to get on the radio a lot, and they were kind of not really able to crack the mainstream.
Yeah.
AM radio. But they had great pop songs, and I don't see why they couldn't have been, top 40.
Yeah, going back to the action. So what kind of music for those who don't know? I know it's punk, but it was punk like the Ramones, or it was a little bit slight different, like more Canadian style rock. Tell me a little bit.
We were very influenced by the Ramones in that the second verse would be the same as the first a lot of the time. So that kind of animation, bit of repetition, kind of cartoonish. But I think the thing that set us apart was that we were kind of very glam punk. Mm-hmm. I was wearing makeup, and we all had long hair. I remember hardcore punks would come out to our shows and say, "Cut your hair, get your hair cut." And we had really long hair, and we just didn't want to cut it. So that was one of the main differences. Our look was kind of considered glam punk before glam punk was even
very
a
cool.
word.
Very cool, Ted. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And tell me, now that we have talked about all this background now, that is huge, by the way, it's
Right.
huge. I mean, yeah, like I say at the beginning, you're a legend, you're an icon, and again, this is a privilege to me to talk to someone with so much history, and you have all the foundation of the real punk rock and roll, basically, So how did you apply this into the new record, Sex, Horror, and Violence? Tell me about a little bit about the record that came up.
Well, it's got a punk ethic to it. There is one song that the song "Sex, Horror, and Violence" is a very punky song, but I think that's the kind of three words that can describe this era we live in.
Yes.
Sex, horror, and violence. As we're bombarded every day with the kind of end of the world prophecies coming true, and so I think the music reflects that in itself. The music on the album is very slashing, tearing rock, and it's also very dark. I was kind of lucky to have hit on this, I wouldn't say goth, but a very dark kind of rock. It does have something for everyone, which is good because we've been able to open for a lot of different type of bands with the set. And I would say, I really can't describe it, but I would say one of my main influences is Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. That's in my notes.
I do nothing specific, but my gestures are very dramatic, and we have a lot of smoke. The more smoke, the better.
Gotcha.
The more dry ice, the more fog, the better on stage, because I want to portray a kind of nihilistic London in the fog, or East Berlin look to the stage.
Very cool, very cool. Tell me about the members of your band, of the new band that you put together a year ago, Dead Axe.
Right. Well, we have Toronto's best guitarist on lead guitar, which is Marcel Lafleur.
Okay.
And Stéphane Ford, again a massive drummer in the Toronto area, well sought after, and then a couple of new members, Corrado on bass and Julio on guitar. Couple of new guys we just got in this week.
Very cool, very cool. Do you have any upcoming shows, or you're waiting for the summer? Because I know Canada is super cold.
Yeah, it looks like Sunday, February 23rd at the Rock Pile in Toronto, and that's a benefit for Australia, for the animals in Australia.
Nice.
So we want to be part of that. I'm a big animal lover and a huge animal rescuer as well. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I think it's very important.
Oh, very cool, man.
Yeah. I ended up rescuing over 100 dogs and cats in L.A. when I lived there.
Oh, nice.
It's a massive problem with stray dogs there. You know, you find them dead on the freeways and that kind of thing. So they used to call me the Pitbull Man. And then, so we have that Sunday the 23rd, and then April 11th at the Corktown in Hamilton, Ontario, which is not far from Toronto. So those are the two shows we're looking for.
Oh, awesome. And let me ask you a couple more questions. Regarding, do you have any new songs? Or are you working in new material right now? Or you just...
Yes, we are. We're looking at going into the studio again in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So we're working on a couple of punky fast tunes.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's always very creative to go into the studio and produce things, you know, to the max, see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Are you guys also aiming to to tour in the U.S.?
I would love to tour in the U.S. It's just to see, we have to make sure that the band can get in to the States because,
yeah.
you know, with the entry problems, a lot of bands have been turned away from the border.
I know.
So,
crazy.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that that's a possibility. But, of course, being in Canada is isolating in a sense. So the only way to become well-known is to tour in the States.
She messed with Mother Nature. She messed with Mother Earth. And all the things wrong with this nation should be fixing up at home instead of sending rockets the moon and
You know, as we are talking on the back of the screen, there's some, a couple of your paints that are very, very cool, and I wanted to talk because there are a lot of connections between your music and your art, you know, and the paints. It's a message coming from the paint, but also there's another message coming from your music, and there's a huge connection there. Tell me if correct me if I'm wrong.
No, absolutely. The two things go hand in hand, and I end up drawing about every night during the week at life drawing workshops, and do some sculpture and painting as well. So I tend to go for the classic styles that you might see in the art galleries, you know, from the 16th century Italian art.
Nice.
Baroque art. I'm very influenced by the Italians from that time.
Wow.
And, of course, I actually went to the same school Picasso went to in Malaga, Spain.
Do you have any, expositions coming soon?
Nothing at the moment that's confirmed, but definitely there'll be something this summer. And right in my area here in Toronto, so that's going to be great.
Ted Axe, has been a pleasure talking to you. If you want to say something to the fans before we close the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I have actually a Facebook Ted Axe fans group, so look for that. I'd love to see you on there.
Awesome.
Welcome you to that group because that's a good way to get to know about me and my fans.
long live the king, long live Elvis. Hey, 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 hey. Long live Elvis, baby. Long live the king.